Hello, hello. Welcome to the Five Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. I interview the top commercial real estate investors and industry experts so you can learn from their experiences. So if you're an investor, a high W-2 earner, or real estate or tech sales professional that wants to invest in real estate without having to manage properties or leave your day job, then this podcast is for you. Or if you're already investing in real estate, but you're doing it part-time and you want to become a full-time multifamily or full-time commercial real estate investor, this podcast is for you too. You're going to learn a ton. You will learn from real-life multifamily investors and other professionals in the industry. They're going to share their blueprints for success, and I'm super excited that you're here. So I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, hello. This is Abel Pacheco, your host for the Five Talents Podcast. We are ecstatic today to have just an amazing commercial real estate veteran, one of those individuals in the business that has been doing real estate, commercial real estate for a number of years, 35 plus years. I mean, he's just a veteran and a professional in the space, and we're excited to have him on. Michael Flight. Michael, how's it going, sir?
Abel, thank you for inviting me on. Really appreciate it, and really looking forward to talking with you, talking a little multifamily, talking a little net leasing, talking commercial real estate.
Yeah, for sure. I'm excited to have you. I first learned about you through another podcast that I was on. I got introduced to Mr. Adam Carswell, who's kind of in connection with Hunter Thompson, and then started talking about this Liberty Real Estate Fund, and I got really curious. I was like, "What the heck is that?" And then he goes, "Oh, it's a net lease security token fund." And I have a tech background. I've heard crypto and tokens and all these really cool terms, and I go, "There's real estate," and those I know they were going to come together at some point. I just didn't know when, and now I have one of those experts. So for those that don't know Michael, let me at least give our listeners a little bit of background, right? So Michael has, like I said, 35 years in commercial real estate. He's a veteran pro, security token evangelist. He's partnered with numerous institutions, numerous funds, REITs, insurance companies, hedge funds, pension funds, family offices. He really serves as an advisor as well to nonprofits, NGOs, which are non-government organizations for those that don't know, really for businesses, real estate. He's been community development solutions and a lot of assistance in the undeserved neighborhoods and countries even. You're the co-founder of Concordia Realty since like 1990, right? So a lot of years. And he is launching, or they've launched, and he's the CEO of the Liberty Real Estate Fund. It's the world's first net lease security token fund. And, summing it all up, I asked him the question. I'm like, how many transactions, how many millions of dollars? Is it $1 billion? And they're really close. They're at like $750 million plus of commercial real estate transactions. If, somewhere in this area, but who's counting at that, that they've leased, managed, or redeveloped. So that's an impressive background. Let me turn it over to you. Can you, tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words?
Well, you told me everything about me, so there's nothing left to tell. So.
I know, right?
When I was in college, I also rehabbed apartment buildings, so that was one of my first jobs, and so I probably ate a lot of asbestos from cleaning out basements and things like that. But I've personally been in retail real estate since about 1987 or 86, and started out as a leasing agent and moved into redevelopment. It's called the savings and loan crisis in the early 90s. It really impacted Texas, where you're from, bad. That created a real deep recession, especially in real estate. So myself and a partner started Concordia Realty. We partnered up with large institutions like Real Estate Investment Trust, REITs, a number of large hedge funds that, they're brand names that you'd know. And it was really, it's been a fun journey. we've done everything from single tenant net lease development all the way on up to our biggest mall was a 900 and something thousand square foot mall in Poughkeepsie, New York. And we ended up demalling that. So we converted it into well, it's kind of a half mall and half strip center. We learned not to do that on the next ones, but you learn by experience. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where, and then along the way, I've also flipped a few hundred houses with partners. That was a separate deal. We've owned office buildings, done just about everything. We have done multifamily. We've done workouts for broken condo projects. So like I said, it's been a fun ride. I've then been blessed to be able to use that experience with some nonprofits in the Chicago area that needed help with different things with real estate. So we did community development. We helped them obtain, TARP grants for different things, and that was with a number of different nonprofit organizations. And then through my work with that, this one gentleman who's a community organizer on the south side of Chicago was working in the Obama administration in the State Department, and he was working with traffic people and people that were in slavery, and he was specifically working in Ethiopia and Romania.
Wow.
And he says, well, you know about business. These women who were trafficked and they can't leave the country need home-based businesses. So what would you recommend? I'm like, what do I know about Romania? What do I know about,
Yeah.
any of this stuff? But I knew a guy that did a podcast, Tom Woods, and Tom Woods really has all these different entrepreneurs on there, and they're really selling their courses and their services and stuff. But there was a one on there that they were doing Amazon. I forget what it's called, but anyway, we bought some courses for them. We helped set them up, if they needed computers and things like that and technology. And so some of them are still very successful doing it. Others just kind of, it wasn't for them. We've had them build a few of our websites and things like that. So and I learned about doing, work with people internationally. So now a large part of our team is international, from the Philippines to Bulgaria to Romania to Adam's in Adam is in Newfoundland. He's an American in Newfoundland. We've got another guy in Newfoundland who's originally from Bangladesh. We've got people in India. So we're actually, and it's really helped us with the security token thing, because the reason why we wanted to get into security tokens is it's a worldwide business. But that is kind of, the whole condensed version of my background. And, if you've got any questions, we can answer some of those.
No, that's a good some good insight, that's for sure, because you're doing a lot of things and you've done a lot of things and had a lot of success, and it's really awesome. I would say just at the highest is seeing that now you're helping others give back in some meaningful ways for people that really need some assistance and help, and that's amazing to see it come around full circle, and that's really great,
Yeah,
Michael.
I
I'm
can honestly
excited.
tell you, like, some of my best deals were the deals that we, renovated a house, or, got a drug building knocked down and, replaced it with something, or we've, arranged for a $500,000 line of credit for a Christian high school in the city of Chicago, so they could go out and flip houses off of that credit. So those are the things that I really, I mean, we've done some great deals, and I can go back and point at them and stuff, which is the cool thing about real estate, is like, you can say, yeah, I took it from there to there. And, but the best ones were the things that really it contributed to the betterment and human flourishing of humanity.
Yeah, that's awesome. We did our first I called it an impact investment, right? You've been doing it, sounds like more than just impact investing, but impact with all your profits as well. But we did a 120 unit multifamily deal. We put a nonprofit in as the general partner slice of the
Okay.
pie, and kind of ended up, the profits are going back to them, and it's really cool. So our investors were on board, and we kind of did this, different capital stack than we normally do, but kind of put them in, and now they're getting a piece of the pie. So it's really fun. And it was a way for us to kind of give back a bigger check than we would have ever been able to do on our own. That's for sure.
Well, and
So it was
that's
really
like
great.
continuing income for them, which is like super huge. I
They
mean,
get cash flow throughout the return, just like any other limited partner. And then at the
wow,
very end, they'll have a piece of the equity pie when we sell too.
that is unbelievable. That's great.
Yeah, so we were excited. So it's good. It's good to see people that are doing the same, especially at your level. It's like, man, that's really amazing. Your impact is probably way bigger, but we're starting where we can,
No,
and
no,
we'll do it.
like I said, it really doesn't matter. It's like, individuals on individuals. I think, when
Yeah,
you try to go, and it's the Catholic, concept of subsidiarity. You don't need the federal government to tell you, where to put a stop sign. People in the neighborhood know where the stop sign is. And so, you need to go where you to the lowest level, and, see where you can make an impact. And if you can make an impact globally with some super huge thing, I mean, that's your thing. But I find it more fulfilling to like actually know the people that I'm, in having a relationship.
yeah, that's awesome. Well, great, good stuff. So yes, and in everything that you've done, there are so many different, things that you've done, right? So just an accomplishment, the measurement, it's kind of awe inspiring, Michael, to be frank with you. And I want to ask you a question because it's, I think it will help other people from a mindset. You are very accomplished, a lot of expertise, a lot of business success, entrepreneurial success. I mean, just crushed it, right? But at some point back in your career when you were younger, you were like a regular guy, like you said, eating asbestos, doing rehab, like getting your hands dirty. You transition throughout your life into to this very successful, highly successful individual. What was it that allowed you to do that? Were they mindsets? Were they paradigms? Or just share a little bit with us to like how that transformation happened. And I think this will be very impactful for our listeners.
I gotta say, I got a lot of my mindset from my parents, but mostly, my mom was always a hard worker, and would create lists for us to do so we wouldn't have idle time. So she'd even make
Wow.
us like, wash the outside of the house and just make work to keep us busy.
Yeah.
But my father was in sales, and then he ended up owning a piece of a company. But he was always in sales, and so the first book I read on, self improvement is I found his. It was this 1950s How to Win Friends and Influence People.
God, I love that
Um,
book. I love that book.
and so he was always, I mean, always optimistic, always, came home. I mean, because I know that he was working long hours, and he'd just come home and like boom. And so he showed me a work ethic. He showed me, sales. He showed me. And when we were talking earlier about where I live, which is in Chicago. And so when we had really bad, snowstorms in the wintertime, and we got a snow day, sometimes, when we got older, one of us would have to go with him, to push the car out of the snow so he could go and make his calls. But that was always cool, because we got to meet people, we got to go out, to lunch and stuff, and I got to spend the day with my dad. So that's some of it. I guess we really just started and didn't know what we didn't know. And the other thing is there was no internet, even when we started the company.
Yeah.
So my first computer was like $4,500, and my phone can do like 50,000 times more things than that computer could do.
100%.
Yeah, and I learned, my mom told me I needed to take a computer class in high school, so we did punch cards, so it's that type of like
That's
really
awesome.
useful
Yeah.
information that I have in my background. But it's really just, taking it and, not knowing that I wasn't supposed to do certain things and just going ahead and doing it. And I will say, I always had a really good network. So, and so the network that I was blessed with when I was working for a company out of Philadelphia, they owned about 270 shopping centers nationwide. And so there was a bunch of people that worked there that I knew. And when they went into bankruptcy and everybody kind of spread to the winds, I had, guys that I used to work with and had relationships with that ended up in insurance companies, ended up in Dutch pension, publicly traded pension fund consortiums, and different things like that. So that was my network. They knew what I could do. And, they said, can you guys come in and be the operating partner on these things? So that's kind of how we grew the business. And, from there, we've really just, worked everything that I've ever done. And I guess it's the business, it's a stupid statement, but, it's through, close relationships. It's like, hey, I know you could do this. We like working together. Do you want to do this thing? And it's how I had a friend that actually sold a 3-flat that my brother and I owned. And, we started talking and he said, well, I'm flipping houses and, I don't have a back office to do some of this stuff. So do you want to come in and raise the money and, you guys can do the accounting? So that's how we ended up, just getting in the house flipping business. And then, it just got, it wasn't enough money to, from some of the stuff, it was detracting from some of our other core business. But, it's just stuff like that. It's like, hey, you want to take a flyer on this? It's like, cool. Yeah, let's do that. And so that's how we ended up in the security token thing too, because I was hanging around with a bunch of people that were into cryptocurrency. They were, more libertarian minded, more free market minded. And, I didn't understand it because I really never did well in math and and I always tell people I went to a public school, so I can't do math. So, when they start talking about this, I'm like, I don't understand, because it's just a software. So it's like, there's nothing behind it. So what's the difference between this and fiat currency? And then my mind immediately went to, why can't you take one of these coins and just, slap it to some real estate? And then you've got like a hard, stable asset. And then it's like, you actually can, have cash flow from the commercial real estate. And then I just expanded it out. I said, what if we took a bunch of like the super stablest properties that you can get, which are net leases? Net leases over the past 10 years, they've averaged between 97.5 and 98.5% occupancy because they're long-term leases with really well-capitalized corporations. So I'm like, why don't you just take that and take a bunch of them, a nice diversified portfolio, and then you get a real super stable coin. So that's how we ended up in the security token business now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you've got such a, diverse background and such a long, tenure in it. There's so many different areas. So I definitely want to talk about blockchain and security token. But before we move on, just to highlight for the listeners, right? I wrote down, more than a couple pages of notes already. And what I really, like about, some of the things you said, there was an internet when you first started. You didn't know, I think your words, you didn't know you couldn't do things or you weren't supposed to do those things. So you just went out and did them.
Right.
And, a lot of this stuff is, I think, uber successful people that I've been talking to, that nobody told them they couldn't, or if they did, they didn't believe them and they just went out and did it, and obviously no one's going to have, success every single time. You're going to fail, you're going to skin your knees, you're going to have a rough point, but you just keep going through it. And while I haven't had $750 million of transactions like you Michael, not yet. Right.
Right.
Every single deal that I do, 7 million, 10 million, 26 million, it's like, I learned something more from every transaction. And I think deep down it was more about myself saying, hey, I'm not supposed to, I'm not supposed to do that. I can't do that. And I was in this cycle for like 10 years. And that's kind of me for single family before I moved over to commercial, where I told myself, yeah, I don't think you can go do this $10 million deal. It's too big for you. And somewhere through the route, it's like, nah, I don't believe that. For you, it was like, no one ever told you. Why wouldn't I? I'm just going to go after it. So I love that. I love hearing it. And then, no, it's not silly of you to say business. It's about who you know and your network and relationships, because there's so many people, I think that probably that are listening. They're like, well, how do I do that? You don't have to be a pro, or you don't have to be an expert. You have to talk to somebody else. You're going to have to build a relationship and ask them how they did it, what they did, find out what relates to you, and then go take some action. Right. But the network is such a huge pivotal part. It sounds
Yeah,
like.
it's that, or it's, finding somebody to partner with, finding, some way to add value to them.
Mhm.
So it's all of those.
Yeah, that's awesome. So okay, so let's dig into this security token, blockchain. I told Michael before the show, I am an investor in Bitcoin, not a ton, but I had some because I had a bunch of tech friends that were always talking about crypto and BTC for years. And they were talking about it in like 2010, maybe 2010 that I first kind of heard about it, 2011. I didn't get any till like 2016. And then I saw this meteoric rise and then a big fall, and it's kind of back up to this high point again. But I like when I tell other people outside of the technology world, all they hear is Bitcoin, crypto, and their minds immediately turn off. Like,
Mhm.
I don't understand it. I'm not, and I think Warren says, Buffett, right? I'm not going to invest in anything I don't understand. Well, that's correct.
Right.
If you don't take the time to like learn about it, it's hard to. So tell us about what you're doing so we can dig into this and understand it. And then I'll
Yeah.
ask you some questions.
Yeah. And can I back up a little bit, because you,
Absolutely.
before we
Absolutely.
started the podcast, said that you weren't as familiar with the what we call the commercial space. You're very
Mm-hmm.
big into the multifamily.
Yes, please.
So just kind of briefly knew a little bit about net lease and stuff. So I can talk about that a little bit to explain.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, because it all builds on each other. I've done, in my background, I've done one deal that's a portfolio
Uh-huh.
of industrial warehouses. It was a net sale, lease
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 back.
back.
Yeah.
And on the deal, they own the property today. It was a
Right.
business. It's running well. We bought it from them and leased it back for a 20-year deal. And I'm a super small partner in this deal. And I just love the mechanics at a high level. There was no, the triple net means they do everything. In multifamily, I got to pay the insurance. I got to pay the taxes. I got to do the renovation. And in triple net lease, so that when you're leasing it back to them, it's like, no, that's on the company that's leasing it. They do
Yeah.
all that stuff. So anyways, that's about as far as
Well,
my extent
you
goes here.
hit on something that, because a lot of people ask me, they're like, why would a company do this? Why wouldn't they just own the real estate? And so your transaction hit on the perfect thing, because what you're doing is you're providing capital to them. So it's
Mm-hmm.
basically a loan, and they
Yeah.
take all that equity out of their property, and then they can use that to run their business, which they're in
Mm-hmm.
business to run their business. They're not in business to own property, and we're in business to own property. So it's a nice mutual thing. But the other thing is that they can now control, what they can do with that building for the next 20 years. So they have control over it, just like ownership.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then the other thing that's really good is they can expense their lease payments 100%, instead of, with the principal, you can't take a deduction on that. And there's all kinds of other
Yeah.
good stuff. So it really works out. And the gap reporting requirements, they penalize you if you're a publicly traded company, that you get penalized for holding real estate on your books, because it's non-productive assets. So
Yeah.
that's why all these large corporations. So Starbucks is, well-known, very large corporation. they don't own any of their properties. They lease all their properties. McDonald's, the same thing. McDonald's is actually in the real estate business. So they have a separate business that owns, their real estate and then leases it to, their franchisees. But I mean, if you look at 7-Eleven, 7-Eleven is, on every corner in almost all 50 states, and they're an international company. They're owned by a Japanese company. They're in, I don't know how many different countries. They don't own a single store. And the great thing about what we do is we provide capital for their expansion. So if they had to go out and spend, $1 million to $5 million building every one of these stores, they, would be a very small company. But since they can go out and, with doing a lease with them, their credit guarantees the lease. So then we can go get financing for that. And so literally it's like investing in a bond with the company, but you get the credit of the company and you get the benefits of real estate, which is depreciation and all the rest of the great stuff that happens with real estate. So we like to describe net leases as bonds wrapped in real estate. So it's a super stable, cash flowing, right from the get-go. There's no, I'm going to wait for the market to go up and raise my rents. It's like, what the rents are, if it's a 20-year lease, what the rents are for the next 20 years. And then the other thing is we control expenses because the tenant is really operating the business, and the tenant, so the tenant pays the real estate taxes, the tenant pays for the insurance for the property and the liability insurance and the building insurance. They also pay for the maintenance of the property. Now, certain situations, real estate brokers will call it a net lease, but in certain things, like you got to watch out for Family Dollar and Dollar General sometimes, they'll make you maintain the roof, the HVAC, and the parking lot, so if it needs to be repaired. So that's not a true net lease. A true net lease is when the tenant is responsible for everything. So, when the tenant calls you up and says, I need you to do this, you just say, well, I'm looking at your lease right here, and it kind of says that we're not responsible for that.
Yeah. They know in advance.
So
I got to do that. Yeah, go ahead.
It's the opposite of, multifamily and apartments and single family rentals, which is there's no tenants, termites, or toilets. They just send you the check.
Yeah. And what I liked about the deal too was normally I'm creating a pro forma, which is my assumption on what's going to happen over the next few years.
Right.
And then I realized, the owner's signing, or the company that's leasing is signing a 5, 10, in our case 20-year lease, which very much carved out how they're going to pay rents over those next 20 years. So it's not really a pro forma, it's a contract how they're going to pay more over the years. So anyways, it was
Right. So it's like a bond or a mortgage, except with this, you own the real estate. And like I said, you get the benefits of depreciation and everything else of owning real estate. So it's really great. So that's what we do. We've done shopping centers and things for, like I said, I've been doing it for the past 35 years. We've done portfolios of net lease properties in the past. And that's why we really thought that it would be a good thing to marry to the new high-fangled, high technology, high risk security tokens, which they're not high risk. I mean,
yeah. But people don't know what they are, and they're like, they perceive it's perceived very much.
Everybody thinks they're crypto, which they're not.
Okay.
Because they're so basically it's the same concept as crypto. So they run on a blockchain, and it's it's out there and it's a token, like it's on a blockchain. So in our case, you'll own a piece of our fund, and that'll be a token. But it's exactly the same thing as a regular syndication. So this will be a 506c syndication. I don't know what kind of stuff that you do, but this is going to be a normal syndication. So any U.S. investor that's going to be, investing in our fund and getting, the security tokens with the fund, they'll have that. Plus they have the added optionality that there's a mandatory 1-year holding period from the SEC. And then after that 1 year, let's say you decided you wanted to invest, $50,000 or $100,000 in the fund. And at the end of that 1 year, you had another deal come up and you said, oh, there's these guys doing a, net lease sale back over here. This looks like I want to sell like 50,000 of my tokens. So you could either list those on an exchange. You could go to a broker and sell them through a stockbroker. And there's a number of other ways that you can, trade your tokens. Or you could just go directly to me as like, some friend of yours, and you say, hey, this is a really good, investment, but I want to put my money into this thing and I need to free up some cash. So, and so we talk to each other, and as long as I put the money up and you put the tokens up, the smart contract makes it go automatically through.
Hello. You're listening to the 5 Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. If you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you're serious about achieving financial freedom. Are you ready to create your own path through multifamily investing for yourself and your family? Then I know you're going to appreciate our Investor's Guide to Multifamily Investing. It's titled Tackling Commercial Real Estate the Easy Way. We use this guide to invest ourselves in $93 million worth of real estate. So we're going to show you the basic mechanics of multifamily syndications and how to evaluate your next passive investment opportunity. So the best part, if you subscribe to our podcast now, leave us a review and a rating. I'm going to give you a free copy of our ebook. So please take a moment to do that now. Once you've done that, go to 5tcre.com/ebook, 5tcre.com/ebook. Make sure to let us know you left a review, and we're going to send you a free copy. So thank you so much for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast. We really appreciate it. Yeah, that's pretty cool. So let me pause here because we have limited partner passive investors that are listening, and then we also have like some. In my opinion, I think we have some relatively new general partner, active partners that are on maybe their first or second or third deal. So we kind of understand a little bit, a couple of things that I'll mention. Yes, we're doing a syndication. So for the most part, our team has done 506B. We're on our first 506C. We're also launching a fund, and we're, the things that are the same in the syndication side. We're pooling capital together and buying something bigger than we would have been able to buy on our own, right? So we're all taking advantage of scale, which is really good. And then in a 506C, a syndication, a passive investor. So I don't have to do any of the work in either of those areas. And in let's say one deal that we buy, 5 Talents buys one deal, it's, one property. Well, our money is really illiquid. It's invested in bricks and sticks. You're not going to get it out. There's a 5 to 7 year hold period, and it stays there. Right. Because that's what we want to do. That's basically how we do it. Now, Michael, what you're saying is that there's a security token which has blockchain, and that is the technology part of the transfer, which I know a little bit about. Right. So I'll talk about this part in a minute, but that is now it's a little more liquid. It's a 1 year thing, and I can move in and out if I wanted to, out of the syndication, right?
Yeah. So I don't think they're ever going to be. I mean, they might be as liquid as stocks right now. There's not, the exchanges are being built, and there's new approvals all the time. And we're talking with some people about perhaps getting our token listed on NASDAQ Dubai and that type of thing. So we're working with different exchanges. We're working with an exchange out of Hong Kong, and we're working with some US exchanges too to get them listed, so there will be more liquidity. But I don't know if it's going to be the same amount of liquidity that you're going to get with and I'm just trying to be realistic to people. But the other thing is a lot of the stock market and everything else is going to go to digital assets too, because it's just easier. Most people don't know that market. It sometimes takes, 3 to 5 to 6 days, and you never actually own your certificate. It's held by, some company in New Jersey. So with this one, you'll actually have your share. And so again, it's exactly like the syndications, the 506B and the 506C that you guys are doing, and you can do either one with a security token. It's just got this added layer of technology and optionality on it.
Yeah. Let me, for those that are listening that know a little bit or don't know a little bit about BTC, maybe I'll share some things that I think might help, right? Is Bitcoin is based on a blockchain, and the blockchain is the technology that allows me to transfer ownership of my Bitcoin from one person to the other. So Bitcoin is separate. Blockchain is the technology that's under the BTC. There are many different cryptos or cryptocurrencies, Ripple or Ethereum or any number of names. There's like hundreds of thousands of them that they run on this blockchain. Now, what's really cool about blockchain is the technology is really applicable across many different things. Like for one, like a healthcare patient record. If I have a healthcare patient record and that's me, the HIPAA requirement, I want it to be secure that my health, care information is not going out. Well, they're trying to figure out different applications to transfer that information, like my healthcare record to another, using a blockchain technology. That basically means it's like super encrypted, super secure, and I can I can trace where it came from, where it went to, in a very specialized way. And this call that blockchain. That's the technology that's under this. And so kind of that, what Michael's saying is that security token, it runs on this same kind of blockchain. And now it's much easier for me, or a little easier for me, to transfer from one to another. And it maintains that. So that's kind of what I wanted to make sure that everyone understood there. And it's in
Yeah,
BTC.
I
Oh,
can
go ahead. Go ahead.
I can say that most people don't need to even know how blockchain works, because you don't need to know how an email works. You don't
You don't know
know what
how
a
email works. We don't know
yeah.
TCP
So
over IP that we were talking about
yeah,
earlier.
exactly.
Michael, there you
It's
go
all
ahead.
that. So what you really want to do is make sure that your transaction is recorded, and the blockchain is a distributed ledger. So once one of
Yeah.
the blocks is changed in one part, all these nodes across the world record that transaction. So somebody can't go back in and mess around with that, because if they see that somebody messed around with it, then it breaks the chain.
Yeah.
So
It
that's
ends up
but
becoming like a
I'll
legal document.
right.
I'm signing it over, right? And now in the
Right.
BTC world, Bitcoin, people are like, well, I don't know what the value is based on. So this is key also, because I don't know how it's based on the value. It's like a perceived value. Well, Michael's saying, well, hey, our token is not just this perceived value. Here's real estate that it's backed by, right? It is essentially the fund is buying real estate, and that's what the token is, right?
Right. You get hard assets and you get real cash flow. And it's, there's also going to be, regular, what we call net asset value valuation. So, you're going to get an idea as to what these
Yeah.
properties are worth in the marketplace.
Yeah. Man,
Um,
you're pushing barriers and pushing boundaries into technology and real estate. This is awesome. This is cool.
Yeah, no, I like I said, I really, my mind just started thinking on it right away, because I couldn't get my head around the Bitcoin thing at first, and I couldn't get my mind. But like I said, this is not a cryptocurrency. A lot of the stuff that you named, they're more like software projects, or they're just a store of value. This can be a store of value, and we really think it's going to be a super stable store of value. And then the other thing that, we talked earlier about some of the stuff, and I really think that this is going to be fantastic for creating more wealth worldwide and distributing wealth worldwide and creating human flourishing worldwide. Because not everybody in any country has enough money to buy a house. I've told the story a few times, but there's this cab driver that picked me up. I was at a security token show in February, and this cab driver picked me up from Heathrow Airport, and he's talking about how expensive it is to buy a house. He's never going to be able to buy a house, because it's like £900,000 to buy a house there. But imagine if this guy could even invest like in one of your properties, and he could
Sure.
invest $5,000 in one of your properties, and he
Mm-hmm.
gets a super stable, cash flowing assets. He gets that, and he might even be able to borrow against that asset, if he wants to like replace his taxi or something like that.
Yeah.
So I think it's just going to create worldwide wealth, and it's going to actually increase wealth, just like over the past 30 years, incomes, more people have come out of, poverty and into the middle class than, billions and billions of people. This, blockchain is going to create a wealth revolution.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for sharing on our show and enlightening our listeners of a new topic. I'm sure that many probably have not heard of in a few. So this is really awesome. If any of our listeners want to get in touch with you, want to reach out to you, how do we get into your world to learn more, to invest, to et cetera, et cetera? Where do we
To
go?
learn more, we have a special report on our website. Our website is libertyfund.io. That's libertyfund.io. And if they want to learn more about real estate on the blockchain, we have a special report that we put together. So it explains a little bit more. We also have a lot of materials on our website explaining net leases, explaining what security tokens are. And we've got a lot of videos and podcasts and things like that on there. The other thing that they can do is if they want to get in touch with me, they can contact me at hello@libertyfund.io. That's hello@libertyfund.io. And the other thing is if they want to learn more about net lease properties, your buddy Adam Carswell and I do the Nothing But Net podcast. It's all about net
Nothing but
lease.
net. I like that.
Yeah. And the website for that podcast is triplenet.re. So
That's awesome. Nothing but net. All right. Well, security tokens are the next $1 trillion opportunity, right, Michael?
I firmly believe that probably by the end of next year, security token valuations will exceed all the cryptocurrency valuations, and then you're just going to see it. It's just going to go like this and take off because think of all the things. It's not only in real estate, but you can, tokenize artwork. There's people that are tokenizing classic cars. There's people that are tokenizing. We spoke with a guy, Spencer Dinwiddie in the NBA, tokenized a bond based on his future earnings. So, and people,
wow.
so
That's
there's
awesome.
this is just, like I said, it's going to open up wealth to people, and it's going to open up finance. And you're going to see in the next, probably 5 years, but especially in the next 10 years, everything's going to be digital, and it's just going to be more and more convenient for people to build wealth.
Very good. Yeah. Well, you heard it here on the Five Talents podcast. That's awesome. Well, Michael, I had a great time talking. I really appreciate, everything you're just sharing with our listeners. Is there anything we didn't talk about today that you really wanted to bring some extra exposure to, or, anything that you were hoping I asked I didn't?
No, I think you pretty much let me ramble a lot. So
It was good. All worth listening to, my friend. All worth listening to.
If, like I say, I'm really have always been in commercial real estate, and especially retail real estate. And so there's going to be a lot of people that are say, oh, isn't retail dead? And I'm going to say, no, there's a lot of reasons why retail is even more important now than ever. And you can see it in the fact that the world's largest company is $1 trillion. That's Amazon. And Amazon is out there opening stores up like mad. So they're opening up bookstores. They're opening up Amazon Go stores. They're opening up now. They spent $30 billion acquiring Whole Foods. And now they're opening up Amazon Fresh stores, which are all automated 40,000 square foot grocery stores. So real estate, physical real estate is here because people, do need to pick things up. So when we're investing with our fund, we're investing in essential needs, type of things. Also auto services and medical services. So don't be afraid when people say retail is bad. The cap rates are fantastic right now. So jump in.
Yeah.
Make sure
Yeah. I
you know a
love
little
it.
bit about what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Make sure you have some education, a little bit about you've been doing some research and you jump into the right spots. But yeah, if you've done all the right things, yeah, this is a fantastic time. Low interest rates, record low 10-year treasury. It's starting to rise a little bit, but it's low. The interest rates are there. And if you can help a business, which is really good because when people say, "Oh, there's distressed assets," and I'm going to get something on the very cheap, right? I'm going to get something for a distressed price, but really there's an owner on the other end of it that you probably are helping also. So if you can find an asset and you're the buyer, then this may be a great time for them to exit and you to enter. So that's really cool. One last kind of question or point, right? For those passive investors or active, I want to go active. I want to figure out how to, be a real estate investor. I've been listening to a bunch of shows, been taking some education, but I just can't figure out like how to pull the trigger. What's a piece of advice that you would give them, either tactical thing or mindset thing? Just give them some insight that'll help them get started. Give them that little push.
I'm sorry, Abel. I'm not the right guy to ask this question because I started in real estate. I knew I wanted to be in real estate like the last year in college. And so I just kind of like went all in. I, went so far in that, my first job was straight commission real estate broker and stuff like that. So, um, you know, I, I guess it's, don't listen to your limiting beliefs, but also make sure that you know a little bit about what you know. And I would also say, if you're still having problems, make sure you have a team around you. So make sure you have attorneys that know what they're doing. Reach out to guys like Abel or anybody else, and make sure that you have somebody, because if they're really concerned about jumping in on their first deal and they all of a sudden say, "Oh, I found this $5 million building," I would say, well, why don't they reach out to Abel and say, "Would you like to do this? And do you want to do this together? And maybe I can come in on a limited part of it, and then on the next one." So just go ahead and jump in, but again, make sure that a little bit about what you're doing, because I do see, unfortunately, especially in the multifamily, I see a lot of people selling snake oil, and the main problem that I've seen is all the multifamily training guys, all had great runs because they all started after 2010. And I will let you know that
Good time to buy.
you know, things go up and down. So, and I think things might go down a little bit more before they go up. So you just need to be careful about that. But the other thing that I will tell you is getting good real estate in a good market is always going to bail you out. And when it's bad real estate, you can't get rid of it. So it'll just be death by 1,000 cuts.
That's
So
great.
make sure that you go into that's why I want to move to Abel state, because he's got a great state, and it's always going to be good real estate in Texas for the most.
Gotta love Texas. God bless Texas.
Yeah.
Is what they say.
And
So,
I will say, living in Illinois, I would not buy anything else in Illinois. Just because the real estate taxes, the government dysfunction, and everything else like that, it's going to take a long time. So there's these people all the time come to me and say, "Well, I see these really super high cap rates in these different neighborhoods in the city of Chicago." I'm like, and with all these people leaving the state, do you think that those apartments are going to be rented? So you just have to, so like I say, look for growth markets, look for good markets, look for niches. So you got to know your markets. You got to know a little bit, but just jump in, just do your homework. And then, and if you need to, get a coach.
for not thinking you were the right person to answer, you definitely gave more than a few nuggets. You gave excellent insight and good tactical plans and next steps for somebody there. So thank you very much, Michael. It's been a pleasure, and we really appreciate, you joining the show, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm Abel Pacheco. I'm your host for the Five Talents podcast. If you heard something that provided you value today, I would encourage you go to our Apple podcast and subscribe, or rate and leave a written review. I would really appreciate it. The higher response, or the higher ranked we are, the more we're going to come out in search, and we'll have other amazing guests just like Michael for you. So we appreciate you listening in, and see you on the next show. Thank you. Bye, Michael.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Five Talents podcast with your host, myself, Abel Pacheco. Each week, we're going to bring you interviews from industry experts and commercial real estate investors who followed their dreams and achieved massive success. Before you leave, let me ask you a few questions. Did you enjoy this episode? Did you learn something valuable? Was your mind stretched to what's possible and what you can achieve? Do you want other experts just like the one you heard today? If you answered yes to any or all of those questions, then please take a moment to subscribe to the Five Talents podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and most importantly, leave us a written review. Tell us what you liked, tell us your favorite guest, give us any feedback. I'm excited to learn and improve so you can get a more valuable show. So thank you again for subscribing to the Five Talents podcast.